I'm not sure this is working. Sorry, but was having trouble with. Uh, okay, so Maaneh, Chacham. Okay, I was not planning on doing a stream today, but someone reminded me that it is Rabbi Yoel Kahn's Yortzeit. It's the anniversary of his death 2 years ago. He was uh, probably um, the Rebbe's, in a sense. I mean, he was the Rebbe's best student. After the Rebbe passed away, he was the person that many people asked about uh, all of the types of things that the Rebbe taught at Hasidus. And he wrote two letters which were collected and made into this book, Maaneh, which I did two parts, 2 2 hour uh, discussions of this book, Maaneh of Rabbi Yoel Kahn, discussing the differences between the Chabad way of looking at Zionism and that of the Satmar Rebbe, the Grand Rabbi of Satmar. And so, because it is the anniversary of his death, I am going to spend about an hour. I'm hoping I can at least get through one Saif. Uh, so this is Saif 13 of the first letter, and we'll try to get through it. V'nachzor le'inyanin. Let's go back to what we were talking about. Lama shabiarnu la'ayel. Lama shabiarnu la'ayel, to that which we were talking about above. Sof Saif Yud, the Saif Yud Aleph, at the end of chapter 4 and 11. The Mama Shehuva Besefer Zchut Avot, that we were talking about what was discussed in the book Zechut Avot, le Rabbi Rav Avraham Galanti, of Rabbi Avraham Galanti, which speaks about a situation in Portugal during the time of the Rishonim, so like 500 years ago. שאנשי פורטוגל רצו להרים ראש להרגם וללכוד המלוכה. That the people, the Jews of Portugal wanted to raise their heads and to lahargam, to I guess to take over Velul capture the government, Hamelucha, the kingdom. Kavanatam hayta lemelucha kazu shehi meshubedet tachat ha'umot. When they were talking about having a government, it was a government which was under the structure of all of the nations, because as he's talking about, it is forbidden to for the Jews to rebel against the God's ordained leadership of the Gentile nations until the Messiah comes. The Meluchaz Kazu, and a kingdom like this, Shehi Meshubedet Tachat Ha'umot, that is one that is under the control of the Gentiles, Eina Inyan Shel Geula Klal. That's not considered something that is redemption in any way. Ki Inyan Geula Bepashtut Hu Cherut Meshibut Malchiot. So, because when you talk about redemption, that's obviously saying a freedom from any sort of control by other kings. Masha Einken Melucha Kezu, which does not pertain to a kingdom like this. Shehi Meshubedet Tachat Ha'umot, that is something that is underneath the subjugation of the Gentile nations. Harehi shibud malchiut begalut. That is considered a being a client state, basically, and exile. Just like, for example, when we were talking about the second temple, right? That was not considered a galut, a geulah shlema. Lachen hi efsharit lifnei biat hamashiach. So something like that is possible before the Messiah comes. Ukavar kadavnu la'ayel, and previously we wrote Sof Saif Yud at the end of chapter 14. The ein lomar shagam melucha kazu, that you can't say that this type of kingship, shehi meshubedet tachat haumot, that is underneath the control of the Gentiles, have cherut ugeula, that it's freedom and redemption. The mikevan shesof sof shem melucha aleha have ze kvar eze inyan shel geula. That you would say that since it's called some sort of rulership, that would be called an aspect of redemption. Ki lefi svarazu, that if you were to say such thing, Yihye kashe al anshe Portugal, it would have been difficult for the people of Portugal. Shehaya beinehem zaken sheyada ech lish'ol al yedei Shem. So there was this story tells of someone who was able to ask questions from heaven itself. V'gam hakadosh Rabbi Avraham Rav Avraham Galanti, and also included Rav Avraham Galanti, keshehevi sipur zeh, that who is the person who wrote about this happening. Lo he'ir shum davar she'oto zaken haya pagum chas v'shalom b'emunah. Right. So if such a thing were a possibility, right, that these people were, God forbid, people who don't truly fear God and have and believe in the 13 principles of Jewish faith, right, then what are you going to say about both this elderly person who had a capability of getting direct answers from heaven and Rabbi Avraham Galanti himself? Shtei kushiyot atzumot, right? You would have to ask two very strong questions. Achad, one, be'in gam melucha kezu haved cherut v'geula. If you're going to say that this type of kingdom is freedom and redemption, hare asiyat melucha kezu hi be'isur de yahareg val ya'avor mitzad maaseh kefira. Right, so we would say that this is something that is completely forbidden, and it's included in one of the three cardinal sins for which we are supposed to even die, because it would be heresy. V'heich Allah al da'atam la'avor al isur chamur kazeh. Right? So how are you going to say that this was something that was considered by such a prominent person as Rav Avraham Galanti and this elderly person who was so holy. Shnayim, and second, Yetera Mizu, even more than this, Mikhevan Mefurash B'Torah, since it is clearly stated in the Torah, V'hu Meikareha Emunah, and it is something that is one of the principles of Jewish faith, She'i Efshar Lihyot Cheruta V'Geula Lifnei Biyat HaMashiach, that it is impossible to have a freedom and redemption before the coming of the Messiah. Hare Mikhevan Hayu bevadai shleimin ba'umuna, hayu tzrichim ladad bevadaut gemura shelo yichlu lilkod hamilocha. So, if this is something that is that bad, right, then it should have been clear to them, right? If you're going to tell me that it is clearly something that is completely forbidden by the Torah, then how come this was something that was even considered? Right? So the way you are interpreting this story that is brought by Rabbi Avraham Galanti cannot possibly be interpreted in the way that, if I'm remembering correctly, there are people who misunderstand what the Satmar Rebbe was teaching. Understand. And from this it becomes clear. The melucha kezu shehi meshubedet tachat ha'umot. That a kingdom that is underneath the rule of other nations. Lo have shum inyan shel cheruta vegeula klal. That this is not something that you could possibly refer to as redemption or freedom. Kanal barucha, like we explained there at length. Ve'al tashiveni, and don't say to me, meha shekol gedolei Israel amru al rayon hatzionut shehu kafira. Don't tell me that since every great rabbi said that this idea of secular Zionism is completely a heretical idea, that completely denies the coming of the Messiah. The emunah zu shemashiach yigal et Israel nichlal gam shelifnei biat hamashiach lo tihye geula. Right? That in order to believe that the Messiah will redeem Israel, you have to also believe that it's not possible that there would be the redemption before the Mashiach comes. Va'ad l'rega ha'acharona, and until that ultimate moment, shelifnei biat hamashiach yihiu Israel b'galut, that until right before the Messiah comes, Israel is going to be in exile, v'shibud malchiyut, and underneath the control of the kingdoms. Ki kavanat hatzionim asiyat medina hayta sheyeh leIsrael melucha atzma'it. Right, that because the Zionists wanted to make a country which was independent, legamre, completely, she'eina meshubedet tachat ha'umot, that was not underneath the control of the nations. Hayinu, that is to say, cherut meshibut malchut, a freedom from the being subjugated by the other nations. V'rayon zeh. And this idea, that it's possible to have the redemption before the Messiah comes, who bevadai kefira gemura be'echad ha-13 ikarim shemashiach yigal et Israel. It is a completely heretical denial of one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith, that the Messiah will come and redeem Israel. That it's impossible for there to be any sort of redemption before the coming of the Messiah. Which is not true of a government such as this, which is underneath the control of nations לא have שום חירות וגאולה כלל ואפשרית להיות גם לפני ביאת המשיח. So such a thing is possible to exist even before the Messiah comes. Saif Yadalet. עוד ראיה מוכחת שמלוכה כזו שתחת שיבוט האומות. It's even a stronger raya, the proof that a government such as this, it's not any sort of freedom or redemption. That we can see clearly that in the year of 5708, that there is now an Israeli government. That if you want to say Shagam Melucha Kazu, that this type of government, Haved Cherut V'Geula, that this is also an actual part of freedom and redemption. God have mercy on us. Yuksha, you would have to answer the question. Hare mefurash b'Torah. We see that in the Torah it says Behu gam echad me 13 ikarei ha'emunah, and it's one of the 13 principles of faith. Shemashiach yigal et Israel mehagalut. Right, then Mashiach is the one who's going to, in fact, redeem Israel from the exile. Shebichlal emunah zu hu gam shelifnei biyat haMashiach lo tihye geula. Right? So it itself is implying that you cannot have the Geulah before the coming of Mashiach. Va'ad rega ha'harona, and until the very last moment, shelifnei biyat haMashiach yihiyu Israel begalut v'shibut malchiyut. Right? And until that very last moment, that Israel is going to be in exile and under the subjugation of the nations. So how like, are you going to deny that this matziyut, that this like Chezi likes to point out, I'm not in Israel. No, we're not saying you're not in Israel, chas v'shalom. We're saying obviously what has happened is not the Geulah. Klomar, that is to say, Be'im tomar shagam meluchat shetachat shibut ha'umot have cherut Geulah. That is to say that if you're going to say that this is a sort of freedom and Geulah, יהיה נמצא שבעת שנעשתה המלוכה בשנת תש"ח, right? That we see that when in 5708 there was such a government, נעשה כבר גאולה, that there's some sort of redemption here. והרי זה הפך מה שכתוב בתורה שלפני ביאת המשיח לא תהיה גאולה. And that's against, that itself is contradicting how you want to understand the Torah. ומזה מוכרח, and that proves the מלוכה כזו שתחת שיבוט האומות אינה חירות וגאולה כלל. So you can't say that something like that would be included in actual Geulah. והוכחה זו היא הוכחה alimta she'ein aleha teshuva. And this is alimta, I'm not sure exactly what alimta means, but I'm guessing very, very strong, that no one is able to answer that, give any sort of answer to it. ומזה הוכחה נוספת. And this gives you another proof. מה שכתוב בויעל משה סימן עין, that what is written in the book of the Satmar Rebbe of Yoel Moshe with in chapter Siman, however you want to say Siman, 75. Shekol metziut shel melucha, that all of the actuality of the government, yeh be'eze ofen shehiyeh, however it is, hi cherut ve'geula. It is a it is freedom and redemption. Katav kan rak lemigdar milta. The only reason that he said this is that he wanted to make a sort of fence around the matter so that people should not make a mistake on something that is so important and part of the 13 principles of Jewish faith. Saif Tetva, chapter 15. Ushmati sheyesh makshim, and I have heard that there are those who ask the lefi hana, that if you're going to say such a thing, shemelucha kezu eina inyan shel cherut vegeula, that this sort of government is not considered freedom and redemption. Mahu hachiyuv lehitrachek mehamedina. So then, why is it that's something that's bad? Va'ad kedei kach shetzarich la'asot gedarim v'siyagim v'lechtov v'devarim shehem rak lemigdar milta. Right. So you're telling me that Satmar Rebbe was saying, "Oh, this is such a horrible thing, and we have to stay away from it," and to the point where he's going to be saying things in order to create a fence around the thing. So what's you're telling me there's nothing wrong here? So what's the problem? V'harei kol ha'isur d'asiyat hamedina. And so I'll answer you that the prohibition of making a government, l'shitat hayol ve'yol Moshe she'ein hashvuot chalim al dorot habayim, right? So as he explained in Vayol Moshe, actually the shvuot are not something that that is incumbent upon the future generations, as was explained earlier at length. Hu rak mitzad ma'aseh kfirad lekichat cherut vegeula. Right? It's because these people are heretics who want to affect a freedom and redemption. ומכיוון שבאמת אין במלוכה כזו שום חירות וגאולה כלל. So, and truly this isn't that at all. הרי במילא לקז בזה איסור. So then there's no prohibition here. The Maaseh Kefira. So why would he do such thing? ואם כן, מהו החיוב להתרחק מהמדינה? Right? Then why was he so against this Medina? ועד כדי כך שבכדי להתרחק ממנה צריך לכתוב דברים שהם רק למגדר מילתא. To that point that you're saying, ונראה לומר בזה. And I would say that it is possible to say as an answer, שהחיוב להתרחק מהמדינה הוא, right, that there is this sort of reason to be wary of the government. Lo mitzad hamedina atzma. It's not because of the government itself. Ki im mitzad hakavana shaba, but rather the intent of it. Ki kavanat hatzionim, because the Zionists, God have mercy on our souls, had this intention. Ba'asiyat hamedina hayta lif'ol al yedei zechirut vegeula, that they wanted independence and freedom and the redemption. Shehem chashvu sheyakimu mamshala kezu she'eina meshubedet tachat ha'umot, that they thought that they had this independent nation of theirs. V'ishtachreru me'ol ha'galuyot, right? And they thought that they would be freed from this yoke of exile, v'shibud malchiyot, and being subjugated to the nations. And even though they were not able to do such a thing, וגם אי אפשר כלל שתהיה מלוכה כזו. And it's not even possible that such a thing should happen. כי מפורש בתורה שלפני ביאת המשיח לא יהיה חירות משיבות המלכיות. Right? Obviously, the Satmar Rebbe believed that this was clearly said as something that could not possibly be in the Torah. So it can't possibly have been, right? אף על פי כן, מכיוון שעשיית המדינה הייתה מתוך מחשבה וכוונה זו. Because people were thinking such things and intended such things. הרי זה אסור מצד המעשה כפירה. It is something that is forbidden because it is the result of heresy. ויש על זה גם עונש השבועות. And that is why there is this punishment of the 3 oaths. The kanal arucha, like we explained earlier at length, the hagam shahashvuot einam chalim al dorot habaim umemela leka beze isur shvuah. That even though it was his opinion that this is not an actual halachic requirement of future generations and does not have the prohibition of a shvuah. Mikol makom, however, heichad yesh isur bepa'ulot elu, since it is something that is forbidden to do such things, misad ma'aseh kfira, from an aspect of a heretical action, hutal alehem gam onesh hashvuot, right? He is included upon them that the and he explains this at length in the earlier things, that how he's the Satmar Rebbe is really talking about the where there is an isur, that there is also the onesh, there's the punishment of the shvuot. Umitzad chomer ha'isur, and because it is such a horrible thing, the maaseh kafira of taking a heretical action, the ha'onesh, and the punishment of it, the shlosh shvuot of the 3 oaths, shebekavanat hamedina, that was in the intention of the establishment of this state. Ra'ah harav tzaddik the Satmar zecher tzaddik lebracha, right? That the Satmar Rebbe of blessed memory saw chiyuv lehitrachek mizeh bechol minei richuk. He saw that this is something that we have to distance ourselves from it in all manner of ways, because that is what the people were trying to do, right? And if you study carefully this book of Yoel Moshe, Ma'amar Shalosh Shavuot, Siman Pei Gimel, the treatise on the 3 oaths in chapter 83, Tir'eh hasvara shekatavnu la'ayel, you will see that the reasoning that we explained earlier, Shaha'isur b'hamedina hu lo b'tzad hamedina atzma. It's not because of what actually exists. Ki'im mitzad hamachshava v'hakavana shaba, because of the ideas and the intents that were included in it. He mefureshet bedavarav, you will see that he clearly says these things. V'zeh lashon besiman pei gimel sham, and this is what it says in chapter 83 there, and he's quoting, Ve'ein lit'ot velomar she'ein b'mamshala zu isur hashvuot ya'an she'ein ba ge'ula. It's not possible to say that this government is not part of this prohibition of the oaths, since it is not because it's not geula v'cherut klal. right? It's not, he's saying that. Like, this government that we have, chas v'shalom, to think that this is the redemption. Ela adarabah. Tarot gedolot beruchniut v'gashmiut. We see that there have been great difficulties, both spiritually and materially. Shezeh vadai ta'ut gamor, that this is a complete mistake to think that the state of Israel, which obviously is not, is neither a religious state nor is it any sort of even material wealth, right? To think of it as the it's a complete mistake to think of it as geula v'cherut. Umavar sham, and he explains there, she'ein hashvuot davka al hasagat eze melucha, that it's not that the oaths pertain to actually getting to that kingdom, which isn't possible anyway, v'cherut, and freedom. Ela al asiyat tzeidim bedvar neged gezerat hagalut, but rather to take steps in such a manner against the edict from heaven of galut, of exile, shegazar Hashem yitbarach, that the holy name, may he be blessed, has enacted upon us. V'chen mitztaber, and therefore it makes sense. The vadai im ein ratzon habore yitbarach shamo, that it is not the will of the Creator, his name should be exalted and blessed. Bazeh ein bo hatzlacha, that if God doesn't want it, then it can't possibly happen. The im Hashem lo yivne bayit shav amlu bonav bo, that if God does not, this is a verse from Psalms, that if God does not build a house, then the builders have worked in vain. Ela de asiyat tzeidim lebatel gezerotav yitbarach shamo al yedei zruah basar have kefira beikar. But to take steps to undo God's will, may he be his name be blessed, through a physical arm, right, a fleshly arm. This is completely heretical. Af im eino masig me'uma, even if he's not capable of actually getting anywhere. Ad kan lashonot, and we were quoting until Hare mefurash b'dvarav. You see that he clearly states isur d'maaseh kefira ve'onesh hashvuot sheba'asiyat memshala zu eino mitzad hamamshala atzma. It's not because of what government actually exists. The mikeivan shekotev ba'atzmo, that since he himself, the Satmar Rebbe writes, she'ein ba geula v'cherut klal, that there is no redemption and freedom there at all. V'gam b'siyum devarav kotev, and also at the end of his words he says, Av im eino masig me'uma, even if he doesn't actually accomplish anything. Hare aliba de emet. We see that when you are talking about the absolute truth, ein ze pe'ula shel lakichat cherut v'geula, you see that they didn't actually accomplish any freedom or redemption. Uma sheyesh isur bezeh hu rak mitzad hamachshava v'hakavana bezeh. So the problem is that, God forbid, people would think such things and would intend such things. The mikevan shekavanat hatzionim basiyat hamemshala hayta lif'ol al yedei zecherut v'geula, since the Zionists, God have mercy on their souls, had the intention that they would make a government that would in fact have redemption and freedom. Hare ha'asiyah shelahem, those things that they did, ma shehem kivnu, what they intended, hi asiyat tzeidim lebatel gezerat hagalut. It is taking steps in order to undo the edict from heaven of exile. ולכן יש בזה האיסור דמעשה כפירה ועונש השבועות, and that's why it is something that is completely forbidden as an act of heresy, and and includes the punishments of the oaths. Chapter 16 says Ted Zayin. והנה אף שמפורש בוויל למשה שהממשלה של המדינה אין בה גאולה וחירות כלל, and even though this is written clearly in the Yoel Moshe that this is not an actual גאולה, redemption and freedom at all, וגם בהמשך דבריו כותב, and he says later, אף אם אינו משיג מאומה, even if this person does not actually accomplish anything, יש הרבה אנשים בהחוג דסדמר שפשוט אצלם שכל מציאות של ממשלה, there are people from this sect of Satmar who clearly believe that all that the actuality of the government itself, יהיה באיזה אופן שיהיה, however it is, they think that it is some form of freedom and redemption, chas v'shalom. And this is why he has to say, no, you're making an important mistake here. You're making the mistake that Chazi makes, Hashem Yirachem Aleinu. ששואלים אצלם איך ייתכן שנעשית ממשלה לפני ביאת המשיח. That when you ask them, how is it possible that there would be a government before the coming of the Messiah? Onim hem, they would say, שזהו מצד הסטרא אחרא, that this comes from the other side. ומכיוון שסוף סוף צד הקדושה תתגבר על הסטרא אחרא, ולכן ברור אצלם שכל מציאות המדינה היא רק לפי שעה ואחר כך תתבטל. Right? They say that it comes from the Sitra Achra. And anything that comes not from the the side of holiness, which eventually will overpower the other side, therefore it's clear to them that eventually this state is going to, that it is only temporal and will eventually be nullified. They would say that there actually is, from the establishment of this state, some form of freedom and redemption. That this is only something for a short while. And afterwards will nullify the state. That again we will go back to having shibud malchiyut, as if right now there isn't shibud malchiyut, which obviously there is. And anyone who has brain cells between his ears, he understands that these things are clearly mistaken and false and crazy. That it's not possible to, that it's not even necessary to answer them. But first, according to what they're saying, shekol matziut shel memshala hi cherut vegeula v'rak shehacherut hu mekoach hasitra achra. That they're going to say that this is something pertaining to freedom and redemption, but it comes from the other side. We would see the Mash Anshe Portugal, right? The people of that which the people of Portugal, the Hazaken Shebetofam Shehayat Ish Na'ale Beyoter, including this elderly person who is such a holy person, Shehaya Bekochol Lishol Al Yedei Shem, that he was able to ask questions through God's holy names. Ratzu lil Kod Melucha, that they wanted to have a to establish, grab the kingship. Ratzu la'asot melucha shel sitra achra, that they wanted to do they wanted a kingdom of the sitra achra, of the other side, chas v'shalom. And this is a man who can who has the capacity to ask from holy names. וגם רצו לעבור על איסור דמעשה בכפירה בכדי להשיג מלוכה זו. And you're saying that they wanted to do heretical actions in order to do such thing. Shnai, and two, גם הדברים מצד עצמם, and even these things by themselves, שאפשר להיות חירות וגאולה לפני ביאת המשיח, that it is possible that such thing would happen. That this is something that's temporary for a short time and from the other side. This is itself something that is sectarian and heretical. And the truth is that I actually shouldn't have to give any answers to this at all. But since that many people from this sect that we have mentioned, that they published these ideas which are completely heretical and sectarian. It's necessary and good to explain these things. That maybe it should be capable and worthy of rescuing them, or at least one of them. V'chol hamekayem nefesh me'Yisrael ke'ilu kayam olam maleh. Like our sages teach us that anyone who saves one soul from Israel is as if he saved the entire world. U'bichdei lahakel al hakora, and in order to make this thing we're trying to do easier, namshil mashal ledevarim. Let me give you an al hakore, so that it's easier to read and understand. Let me give an allegory, right, to what we're talking about. Nimtzaim anu ke'et b'shnat Hey alafim tafshin mem gimel, right? We now live at this time. He was saying it was the year 5,743. 5,743. Why am I forgetting today's Hebrew dates? Today is 5783. So 5743. So that was 40 years ago that he wrote this. Uvaim yavo echad v'yamar she'efshar hadavar shehagalut yumshach chas v'shalom. Od resh nun zayin shanim v'yoter. Right? Let's say that somebody says that it's possible, God forbid, that the exile should continue for another 257 years or more. even though our Torah teaches us that the world will exist for 6,000 years, the mizeh baru shabiat hamashiach mukhrach lihyot lifnei siyum elef hashishi, that it's clear that the coming of the Messiah needs to be before the end of the sixth millennium. V'yevaer demikevan sheyeshnam kama nisyonot b'meila yechol lihyot gam nisayon kazeh, and that it becomes clear that because that they have such difficulties, it would then they might also have, since they are being tested so much, they could also have such a test. Harez vadai apikoris gamur. I'm not sure I understand what he's saying here. I'm not sure why he's bringing this. I mean, I understand what he's saying, but I'm not sure why he's bringing this. Let's see. Okay. The ma shematzinu inyan hanisyonot, that what we have seen regarding the trials, hu sheyachol lihyot eize davar shahu mishamesh lahochacha al inyan shehu hefech haTorah, that there would be a test such as this, that something could be used as a proof against something that is in the Torah itself. Uchamo navi shaker sheminave la'avor al divrei Torah. Let's say that there is a false prophet who prophesies and guides people to go against the Torah. שאפשר שהקדוש ברוך הוא ייתן לו כוח לעשות אות ומופת לנבואתו. That it is possible that God would give him the capacity to do miracles, establishing his prophecy. Va'ad lahamid chama berakia, to the point where he would be able to stop the sun in its tracks in the heavens. The mikevan she'amdat omedet hachama gufa eina davar shehu benigud lama shekatuv b'Torah emet, Torat emet. That since this is that the sun itself stopping is not something that clearly is against the truth of the Torah itself, which is the Torah of the truth. V'rak shehi meshameshet hochacha ledavarav shel navi sheker. Right? That it is something that is being used as a proof to the words of an navi sheker. Hine bekagon da, that in such a matter, shayach lomar shakadosh baruch hu natan koach lenavi sheker sitra achra la'asot davar sheyeshamesh hochacha lehishaker la'sheker shelo. Right? That for a false prophet, it is possible for him to do a sort of miracle, which is not clearly against the Torah. It is not something that shows the Torah, which is eternally true, to be something false. It's possible that that God allows such things in order for people to be tested. But how could you say such thing about something that is itself against the Torah? Pshita de'ein shayach lomar shakadosh baruch hu natan koach lesitra achra la'asot davar kazeh. It's clear that that's not the type of thing that we're talking about, that God gives the other side a capacity to do things like this. Masha Torah omeret she'i efshar lihyot. the type of thing that the Torah says it is not possible for there to be. Lihyot davar kazeh, that there should be such a such thing. The in Tomar can, that if you say so, she'efshar shehiyu b'matziut, eze davar ma she'atorah omeret shelo yiyeh davar kazeh. That if you say that it's possible that there would be something that the Torah says will not be, harei ata omer dama shekatuv b'Torah eina emet chas v'shalom. You're saying that it's not absolutely true, right? Because what we mean when we say that the Torah is true is that it is always true. It is completely true. The hagaba atzmacha, and you should really take care of yourself. Like, what are you thinking? Mefurash b'Torah. It is clearly stated in the Torah. V'hu achad me'karei emunah, and it is one of the principles of our faith. Shemashiach yigal Israel, that the Messiah is going to redeem Israel. Mehagalut, from exile. V'ad l'rega ha'achrona shelifnei biat haMashiach yiyu kol Israel begalut. Right? That until that last moment before the coming of the Messiah, that Israel is going to be in exile. V'hinei av shebe'inyan hagalut v'hageula yesh gam inyanim ruchnim. And even though there are spiritual aspects of the exile and the redemption, harei hadavarim b'pashtutem, the simple explanation of the matter is the inyan hagalut hu ma she'Yisrael meshubadim tachat malchei umot ha'olam. That when we talk about exile, it is that Israel has to live under the kings of the nations. Ve'inyan ha'geula hu cherut meshibud malchiyut. And the matter of redemption is freedom from shibud malchiyut. Uva Rambam Hilchot Malachim Perak Yud Bet Halacha Bet, and in Maimonides the Laws of Kings and Wars, chapter 12, Halacha section 2. Ein bein olam hazeh leyamot haMashiach ela shibud malchiyut balvad. That according to Maimonides, the only difference between the world in which we live in and the coming of the days of the Messiah is shibud malchiyut balvad. It is the subjugation of the nations. Zot omeret, that is to say, shebetorah emet, that in the Torah, omeret shad l'rega ha'achrona, that until that very last moment, shelifnei biat haMashiach lo yihyeh cheruta meshibud malchiyut, that it's not possible that this subjugation would end. Umekeivan shetorat emet omeret kach, and since the Torah, which is the truth, says such thing, Torah hi nitzchit, and it is an eternal thing. Hayinu de kol ma shekatuv b'Torah hu la'ad olmei olamim, that everything that is written in the Torah is permanent and forever and ever. Ve'ein shayach bezeh shinui chas v'shalom, and there can be no changing of it, God forbid. Afilu l'rega achat, even for one moment. Harei barur, it is clear. She'i efshar b'shum ofen, it is impossible in any manner. She'yeh me'ura kazeh ba'olam, that such a thing should happen in the world. Me'ura kazeh she'atorah omeret shelo yihyeh davar zeh, that in the Torah it says something will not be. Afilu l'rega achat, even for a single moment. Ve'elu ha'omrim, and those who say, ve'efshar lihyot ba'olam me'ura kazeh she'atorah amra shelo yihyeh davar zeh u'mitaytzen shezehu mekoach hasitra achra ve'rak lezman katzer. Right? Then those people who say that it is possible for such thing to be, and they give the answer that it's comes from the capacity of the other side and for short time. Who kafirag mufrab isudei amuna, that it is completely heretical in one of the foundations of our faith. The whole mashkatu b'Torah hu emet, that everything that is in the Torah is true. The whole mashkatu b'Torah hu nitzri, and everything that is written in the Torah is permanent and eternal. Ve'ein shayach b'zeh shinui chas v'shalom, and there can be no changing it. God forbid. Afilu l'rega achat, even for a moment. Ve'al teshiveni minyan hanisayonot, and do not answer me from a matter of being tested. Ki kavar hisbarnu, since we explained before. The inyan hanisyonot hu benogea ledavar shemeshamesh meshamesh. It is only for something that is for used as a proof. As a proof for something like the doing a miracle, right? The bekagon that in such a manner shayach metziut shakadosh baruch hu noten l'reshut v'koach l'sitra, that in such a situation God does give permission and potential of the other side lasot davar kazeh yeshamesh kehochacha lehefech haTorah, that something would be used as a proof against the Torah. Aval benoga ledavar zeh shehaTorah omeret al hadavar atzmao shehadavar yihyeh, but something that the Torah itself says would be, oh shehadavar lo yihyeh, or that it would not be. Harei ein shayach shebekoach hasitra achra yihyeh bepoel lehepech shehaTorah omeret. That's impossible for the Sitra Achra to do something that is opposed to that which the Torah says. The Elu Hatipshim, and these idiots, She'omrim Shebekoach HaSitra Achra, who say that it is in the capacity of the Sitra Achra, Yechol Lihyot Lezman Katzer, that for a short time, Davar Kazeh, there could be such thing. SheHaTorah Omer Shelohi, that the Torah says it will not be. Oh, Shebekoach HaSitra Achra, or that it's in the capacity of the other side. Lo yihyeh davar kazeh ma shehaTorah omeret shechen yihyeh, or that so that there would not be that which the Torah says will be. Harei hem yecholim lomar chen al kol shlosh esrei ikarim. They would be able to say such thing about all 13 of the fundamentals of our faith. Veladugma, and as an example, b'yesod harishon, in the first fundamental, the Yud Gimel Yesodei Hadat Shebet Pirush HaMishnayot LaRambam Perek Chelek, in the 13 principles of faith as they are formulated by Maimonides in his commentary to the Mishnah on Perek Chelek, Sanhedrin chapter 10. Kotev Harambam V'zelo Shono, that Maimonides writes, and this is a quotation, V'al Yaleh al Halev, and a person should not even consider Heder Metziuto, that there is other than his existence. Chulu Lo Yitbatel Metziut Hashem Yitbarach, that it's impossible that God would cease to exist. And these idiots, according to their conception, Efshar Lomar, it would be possible to say that this rule, she'ein shayach heder metziuto, that the lapsing of God's existence, hu mitzad hakedusha, is something that is from the side of holiness. Aval mitzad hasitra achra efshar likyot me'ura shel azman katzer yitbatel metziuto v'achar kach yikum letchiyah. Chas v'chalila, it would be possible to say that God might, I hesitate to even translate these words, that the Sitra Achra would make that there would be for a short time, God would, Kaviyachol, that it's possible that he would die and be resurrected. Bevadai shagam tipshim, even these idiots. Kashiyikru davrei hevel elu, that when they read such completely worthless words, he's Tisamarna Sa'arot Rosham, that they're the hairs on their heads would stand on end. Aval bepoel hem omrim otan divrei havel al haTorah, but they're saying similar things about the Torah. The Masha Torah amra l'shelifnei biat HaMashiach lo yeh cherut v'geula, that which the Torah says that before the coming of the Messiah there's no freedom or redemption. Hinei hasitra achra pa'ala shedibur zeh shebetorah nitpatel l'zman katzer. It would be that it's possible that such thing was nullified for a short time. B'meshech lamed hei shanim. And that's, already 40 years ago, that for 45 years and now 85 years. It's been generations, right? Aval shemekuyam hem shesof sof titpatel hamedina v'yeh shuv pam galut v'shibud machuyot v'az yikumu divrei Torah l'tchiyah. Right? The Torah will be resurrected, and it'll be again like it's supposed to be after 85 years now, right? Oraita v'kudshu berchu kulacha. We know that the Torah and the Holy One, blessed be He, are all one. Ukamo shekadosh baruch hu nitzchi, and just as God is eternal, ve'ein shayach bo shinui chas v'shalom, and there can be no change in Him, afilu rega achad, even for a single moment. Kahai gavna. Gam beTorah. Similarly, it is with the Torah. Chen have gam beTorah. The kol ma shehaTorah omeret ze davar nitzchi ve'ein shayach chas v'shalom sheyeh bepoel. The lo kamo shehaTorah omeret afilu rega achad. And it's not possible that it should be even for 1 second, not as the Torah says. Umichol ze barur. And from all of this, it's very clear that it's that we can see, and if you look at the news, you can see that this is not cherut and geula. The mikayvan shemefurish b'Torah ad l'rega achrona shlifnei biat HaMashiach yeh kol Israel b'galut v'shibud machuyot. Right? That since it says in the Torah that we will be in exile and there will be the subjugation of the nations, it's not possible at all. Shelifnei biat HaMashiach, to be before the coming of the Messiah, even for 1 moment. And certainly not that there should be such thing for 45 years, much less 85 years. Okay, and this should be for the Ilui Neshama of Rabbi Yoel Kahn. Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, that we should very quickly see the coming of Mashiach with a geula shlema v'amitit, and not have to worry about such shtusim. And broadcast.